The ACC and its future. We get a glimpse. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. We break down the game we all love each and every day with you. Best discussion, debate, and analysis of college football thanks to your contribution. All right, Jim Phillips at ACC Kickoff today addressed the challenges facing the conference, the high points of the conference and where it stands currently, and what may be yet to come and how the conference will deal with the challenges ahead. All right. One thing I would advise Mr. Phillips on is when delivering a speech, you don't want to say too little, you don't want to say too much. You want to be informative, you want to be exhaustive to a certain extent in what you present, but you don't want to allow your main themes and main message to be bogged down with details and minutia. And I think he failed in this manner. So basically, he was specific on those things that were not necessary. Specific on the ACC Network schedule and initiatives. We could have looked at a program guide as he took minute after minute in addressing the ACC Network's accomplishments and current broadcasting initiatives. Yeah, we don't need a detailed rundown of the ACC Network's programming schedule. And then he was vague and too vague about what was most important. So first of all, he stated that there was no better conference than the ACC, putting academics and athletics into an equation also with culture and what is best for the student athletes. And I can't argue with that. He did have the one metric to stand on, and that's that the ACC won the most national championships in collegiate athletics this past school year. Great. That's something good to go on. In terms of the health of the league, unfortunately, many of those championships are important on the field, important to those student athletes, important for prestige, but not important in regards to vaulting the league forward in a strong position, because it just doesn't matter. He cited the academic standing of the league. I don't think that's to be questioned in any way, whether it's better than the Big Ten or the Pac-12 or on the same level. It's generally in that area. And all we have to do is look at schools like Duke, Wake Forest, Miami, Florida State, even a much stronger school than it's been in the past. Certainly schools like Georgia Tech and others are strong schools. Good foundational place for the ACC academically. North Carolina, Virginia. All right, let's not be Jim Phillips myself and get bogged down into the details here. It's not a professional sport. He doesn't want to be collegiate athletics to be the NBA light or the NFL light. I get it. So he launched this overarching theme about the state of the college athletics, where we're headed. And he kind of laid it out there that we don't want to be headed in this direction, but he didn't provide any possibilities, any possible solutions, any specific warning signs or warning areas, just that we didn't want it to be a professional sports league. What was kind of interesting and amusing to a certain extent was that Jim Phillips made mention of the non-conference scheduling in the ACC as being the strongest non-conference scheduling in all of college football. Well, earlier he had included Notre Dame as an ACC school. He kept referencing the 15 ACC schools. Okay, this particular event is attached to football. And yes, each conference commissioner makes it a point to remark on and capitalize and run down the accomplishments of the league as a whole athletically. And Jim Phillips did that, certainly, but forget it. It's about football. This event doesn't exist without football, of course. Football is the driving force from a popularity standpoint and therefore a financial standpoint. Therefore, it's funny that he included early in his speech Notre Dame with the 15 schools. Well, we know that that's not the case in football. It's this case in all the other sports. But then when it came to talking about football specifically, he then dropped it back to that 14 number. Okay, That's appropriate. That's accurate. It's not his fault that he inherited this situation, ridiculous, inane situation of Notre Dame belonging to the conference in all these other sports except football. He inherited that situation. What is funny is that when he runs down all the metrics of why the ACC is playing the toughest non-conference scheduling, I guarantee you that much of that is built on its games against Notre Dame. And I kind of question the toughest non-conference scheduling, but I'm not going to delve into that right this second. That's not important. But again, he rode the fence and took advantage and emphasized Notre Dame being a part of the conference where it most benefited the ACC's reputation and the ACC's optic, and then, of course, took Notre Dame out of the equation. All right, the ACC Network initiatives, again, we don't need to hear all these things. It lost me at a certain point, and I've been in network television for 25 years. Just I didn't need to hear the commercial about the ACC Network. The ACC Network's a good thing. It's expanding. It's a pretty quality product for the most part, although it's an inferior, maybe you should work on this, with his relationship with ESPN. Man, if I was running the ACC and I saw the product that the SEC Network puts out on a regular basis, not just talking about SEC Media Days, although that's part of it, and I compared that to the product of the ACC Network, I would say, hey, ESPN, you've got the same resources, same facilities, same creative minds, same journalistic resources, everything that you've got here that we have together as a partner. I'm looking at the SEC Network and I'm seeing a network quality product. The SEC Network might as well be ESPN 1. ESPN people don't like the term ESPN 1, but you know what I mean. There's no difference in quality. But when you watch the ACC Network, it watches much like ESPNU. It's good, it's decent, but it doesn't compare to the SEC Network. And if I'm running the ACC Network, especially since we have the same resources as the SEC Network and our relationship with ESPN, I'd say, we want that quality on our network. All right. He mentioned that the college football playoff proposal from last summer was shot down based on it was a necessary stance to take based on health and safety and all these initiatives. And I didn't really understand that. Didn't understand it at the time. If we can only take on one challenge or one issue at a time, then we're in trouble in this country, and he's in trouble. And his conference is in trouble if it can only take on one issue at a time. We can work on a playoff system for football and work on these other issues simultaneously. So didn't agree with it at the time that he said that, don't agree with it a year later. So it was a bad idea for him to shoot down the college football playoff as proposed. The statement that obviously has caught everyone's attention is the statement that he made in response to the first question that was asked by an ESPN reporter, Andrea Adelson, I believe, in which he said, based on all measurements and metrics, we are one of the leaders in college athletics. Well, we're talking football, and we're talking about football revenue, and the revenue comes from football. So point number one, Jim Phillips, you are not measuring up on the field in football, so don't include that. You shouldn't say all. You can say many, several, most. You're not measuring up in attendance. So take away the money before we get to the money. Attendance at the games, television ratings, or performance on the field. The ACC is not measuring up to the SEC, certainly nowhere close, or the Big Ten. And in recent years, not measuring up to the Big 12. Again, these commissioners are supposed to be putting their conferences in a good light in these presentations to the media at their conference media days. I get that. You can spin it in a positive way. but be accurate. Jim Phillips, not accurate there. And again, he made those statements about the ACC measuring up in all those categories, every category except money. Well, that's, of course, monumental. It's paramount. It's everything. I'm sorry. It's everything. It's everything going forward. The ACC cannot correct this issue, then there is going to continue to be an issue. Either the conference is going to lag behind considerably and will be unable to catch up or even maintain the distance that currently exists, or most likely it's going to be picked apart because schools like most notably Clemson, Miami, Florida State will not languish in a league in which they are earning 1/3 or less of the football revenue, which is almost the complete total sports landscape revenue distribution than the other conferences or the two big conferences. He said expansion is not the only solution, so I don't expect him to address what's going on with expansion or what they want to do or what they're thinking about or talking about, just that they simply are looking at all options. That's understandable. However, he said that expansion is not the only solution. Well, of course, you can look at other ways. You can be creative. I agree with that, but make no mistake about it. You can only get so creative in making up that shortfall of revenue versus the two big conferences, the SEC and the Big Ten. So my thoughts on Jim Phillips here, again, he needed to drive home his major points of these are the ills of college athletics as we stand right now, the adversity for this conference in particular, and this is what needs to be addressed, and this is what we're exploring. Don't need the ACC Network schedule. He could have highlighted a few initiatives in regards to this is a very important commodity and component to us broadcasting and exposing our sports and our academics and our universities, but don't need the commercial pitch with the entire programming schedule. Jim Phillips, ACC commissioner, I'll give you a flat C on this performance today. Again, too vague where it was important to be more specific or be clear. I understand you can't be specific in terms of ideas and initiatives that are being explored, but you can be specific and clear. You can be clear about what needs to be addressed and how it's being addressed. And then a little bit too specific where it was unnecessary. My thoughts on the ACC and Commissioner Jim Phillips at ACC Kickoff right here, the voice of college football. Please like the video, share the videos out on social media, subscribe right here. We discuss, debate, analyze college football every day with you. Please lock it in.